All right. Thank you for joining me on today. Welcome to another episode of Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast, where we are joining and connecting on one platform to just share life stories for encouragement, motivation, for equipping, whatever it is that you need. I hope that you can get it here in this space. Welcome to the official episode, the first episode of season one. It is January 1st of 2025. And we are dropping this episode with the most beautiful apostle, Catrina Garrett. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being a part of what God is doing in your life and through your ministry. Um, so I am a wife and a mom and a grandmother. I'm a mom of seven and a grandmother of 18. My
Ooh,
husband,
girl, I didn't know you had 18 grandkids.
yes, between both of us combined, yeah, we have
Oh my
18
goodness.
grandkids. So um, between that and ministry, um, I I also work at the hospital, so I do phlebotomy work, and I'm an author. I have a small little business, and so I'm a woman of God. I love the Lord with all my heart, and basically that's all I can say about myself. I mean, I really don't talk about myself like that, so I don't know really
Well,
what
you
else
don't
to
talk about
say.
yourself, but I'm gonna give you the opportunity because listen, you said I have a small little business, like you do something little every time I see something on Facebook, you're doing something new. You have seasonings, you have a baking business, you are a creator, you are don't you still have your Amazon influence.
Yes, I do.
You have a lot going on, and that is what I love about the aspect of you being a Kingdom Wife Mom Boss is that you have so many different things that God has blessed you with, so many different gifts and so many different avenues that God has blessed you with. And He has also blessed you to be able to balance it and to kind of thrive in it all and have it mesh well and balance together.
Yes.
Because sometimes as a Kingdom Wife Mom Boss, it feels like we have a lot on our plate. We're like, how are we gonna get all this done? But when God blesses you with something, He also equips you to be able to take care of it. And so you have a lot. List those things for me out. List them out for me.
List out what I have. Okay, so
Yes, the businesses.
well, let me just start from the beginning. I started out doing jewelry in 2004. And so moved from that and did, I did a little bit of Reese. Didn't really sell many of those, but I did a few. And then, of course, by 2011, 12, the Cricut came out. So I wanted one of those and got a Cricut. And then I started learning how to do vinyl t-shirts. I've learned how to do soaps. I learned how to make candles, um, planning supplies, things of that nature. And then I started getting into writing and doing books. And then the seasoning came about because I love to eat and I like seasoned food. So I started with doing seasonings as well and blending them and making different like dips that you can just add the seasoning to and make your own dips. And then let's see, what else have I gotten into? Um, and then sometimes I still do jewelry on the side. It just depends what mood I'm in. I kind of like just flow, like you said, with the Lord. Like I might do a season of doing seasonings. I also have laundry. Um, I'm sorry, y'all, my dogs are barking, so please forgive me for that. But can you hear them?
Yeah, no, I can't even hear them.
Oh, okay, good. Because I got the microphone turned kind of like down, so you really can't hear them that
Mhm,
good.
I can't hear
So I
them at
can
all.
speak in the microphone. Um, but anyway, I got into doing scent boosters and linen spray that you can actually spray in your clothes. So, I just kind of just switch out, like, I'll say I want to do soaps this month or then sometimes people call me and say, can you make some soap? Or people ask me to do the scent boosters. It just, and then baking. I love sweets. So I would bake. It just depends on, sometimes people Pretty much in the area where we live, people know what I do. So I also do photography. Um,
right?
I did photography, and so like I just go with what people ask me for, basically.
A beautiful gift of many different talents. Yes, so I don't know if you mentioned that she is in Panama City, Florida, which is where I live as well. And I don't know if you mentioned this. How long have you guys been married?
In Panama City.
How long have you guys been married?
Oh, okay. So me and my husband, we've been together 24 years, but we've been married 22 years.
22 years. That is a very long time. And so I'm going to tell you, and I don't remember if it was, I feel like it had to be 2021 when you were a guest in the Women of Worship conference that mom always held for the Women of
Yes.
Worship. Okay, I think it was 2021. And she
Yes,
had
ma'am.
you come in one day to do a segment on marriage. And you were telling this story, and girl, we were dying laughing. And you were talking about how you and your husband, way back when, were fussing about each other being double, essentially, because the way that you guys were acting. And I loved that because it was so raw, it was so real. And I think so many times people have this unrealistic depiction of what their marriage is going to be like. And I'm gonna like some people don't experience a whole lot of hardships or trials in a marriage, but some people do. And I
Right.
think whenever people have this depiction of it's going to be all butterflies and we're not going to have any issues and there's not going to be any trouble, whenever trouble does hit, they have a really hard time processing it and dealing with it. And so
Yes.
I know that I spoke with you and I wanted to talk to you today about the growth in marriage, the ups and the downs and the growth in marriage. And so the first question that I want to ask you is, can you give us a personal testimony or just anything that you can think of off the top of your head of a moment where you really had to like trust in God, stick with God, and ask Him how to get you through a pivotal point in your marriage?
Yes. So when of course, when you get married, you have to learn how to compromise. And I'm a type of person, I like to have my way, and it's my way, why my way, or no way. But over the years, I had to learn how to kind of just compromise with my husband. And there were times that, if I didn't get my way, I would act out like a typical woman. But then it was over a period of time, God began to deal with me because I would always go and say, Lord, my husband this, my husband that, and my husband this, and he did this, and he's doing that, and he's doing, and God began to say, but you're always telling me what he does, but you never talk about what you do. So I started, reading scriptures on marriage, back, several years ago. And I started saying, okay, if I want to see change in my husband, then the change has to start with me. And so when I started like for example, like when he would give a minister, I would critique him on how he ministered. And I would say, well, you didn't do this and you should have said this and this, just different things, because I was basically trying to make him into what I felt like he should be as a man of God. And then there was a time that the Lord told me that you can't fix him. You're not God. You can't fix him and make him be what you think he should be. I'm the potter. You're the clay. And he says, and I have to mold you the same way. So over a period of time, I learned to focus on myself and, ask the Lord to show me um, how to be more of an encourager to my husband. Um, and don't get me wrong, there's still times, you get in your flesh and you might say things, but you catch yourself, and because men do need encouragement. That's what they look for from a wife, is for them to encourage them. Because my husband told me before, I already have to deal with my job, and I already have to deal with the outside of my home. So I don't want to have to come home and deal with you. So, over a period of time, we learned how, me and my husband, we don't really argue like we used to when we were, in our earlier marriage. We kind of like have discussion or we'll have a disagreement. Don't get me wrong, we still have disagreements, but the argument doesn't go like on and on and on. Thank you. On and on and on. So we learn how to just say what is on our mind. I think that's very important. That does help your marriage. I want to say, don't be afraid to not say what's on your mind or what's bothering. It's not the fact that they don't want us to tell them what's bothering us, it's the approach. And it's the way we approach them. And if you're really, really angry and you're furious, then I don't think that's the time. So that's what I have learned to do. I learned how to, if my husband makes me really upset, I learned how to be quiet, wait for a minute, pray for a minute. And then I would say, hey, I didn't like the way you said that, or I didn't like the way you did that, and then it really has helped our marriage. Um, Even there were times that we struggled financially, and my husband, would make these mistakes financially. And I had to learn that my husband can only do what he was taught. Some men may not had a real big father figure in his life. And my husband really didn't have that, even though his dad was there, he wasn't there. So he didn't have somebody to sit down and say, hey, look, this is what you need to do. This is how you take care of family. This is how you manage money. This is how you save, different things like that. So I learned, and the Lord even mentioned to me, look, he's only doing what he knows, only what he knows how to do. So what you both need to do is you both need to get into a financial class, because finances can be a major part of a marriage, especially a breakup of a marriage. Finances can play a big part in that. So through the years, we've grown together, we've matured together, and I can honestly say we're not where we were. It's like every time we step a little bit higher in our marriage. It's just like the relationship with God. God looks for maturity. So we learn maturity even being married. You know, I don't have tantrums like I used to. I used to have temper tantrums. I've grown past that, and so now I can say we are different, and it's grown us closer. We're close. We do everything together, and I thank God for that. So we pivot, I think to pivot through a marriage, you take it one step at a time. You pray, but most of all, you communicate. Because the biggest thing that will cause a marriage to break is not communication. And you can't be afraid to say what's on your mind. And he shouldn't be afraid to say what's on his mind.
You just said so many good nuggets in there. Oh my God, so many good nuggets. But first of all, I wanted to point out because I don't think we mentioned that, but you and your husband also do ministry together. You are both apostles, correct?
Yes.
And you own a church together. So you're married, you live life, and you also do ministry together, which is one more thing added on the plate of unity or things that you have to balance well in your marriage. And I think that that's so key. But the first thing that you said was that it starts with you. And so I did this challenge, Kingdom Wife Mom Boss Challenge. And it's about fortified wife. And in the fortified wife, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I feel like I'm being a little mean. And I don't mean to be mean, but here's the thing. And I know when you go to God and you start telling God the 10,000 problems that you have with your husband, He's gonna tell you the 10,000 problems that you have with yourself.
Right.
He's going to tell you what you need to work on, because at the end of the day, when we show up in our kingdom marriage, we have to show up in a way that honors God. And we can't stand before God and say that we didn't do that because the way our husband was acting. He's going to
Yes.
ask us, why weren't we the vessel that he was able to come in through and change the situation in the marriage? And so that is one thing. Like, it starts with you. If you want to see change in your marriage, it's going to have to start with you. But also being a helpmate, being a supporter. You talked about that. It's just having a welcoming space for your husband. You said that your husband told you, "Hey, I got to go out here and I gotta fight this world. I don't want to come home and fight in my home either." And I'm gonna tell you, girl, for me, God very specifically will tell me, "Hey, get this done and get that done. Get that done and get that done. Do something with this part." He was speaking to me about my office. My office had become just like a where everything goes. The junk
Uh-huh.
graveyard is what I'll call it. And he was like, "Hey, start cleaning out the office." Like he specifically will tell me things, and this is because this is my prayer. Like, God, how do I be a better wife to my husband? And he will very specifically start telling me things that I need to work on or things that I need to do in order to make my husband feel more at home when he comes home. Because currently my husband is working crazy hours, and I know he don't want to come home and have to deal with craziness. Like he wants to come home and feel peace. And so I implement a lot of things in my home to just make sure that he comes home and feels peace. And I think that is so good. God will literally help you to be a better wife. And the other thing that I wanted to point out that you said was that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because I think we
Yes.
all used to be temper tantrum brats. I'm just saying,
Right.
like, because we wanted our way. And a lot
Right.
with me, I had to learn, like, just like you said, pause. Just pause and
Yes.
process. Number one, is it even worth mentioning? Is it my own
Uh-huh.
personal feelings that I need to deal with, or is it something I need to have a conversation with him about? Because if it's my own personal thing I need to deal with, then I need to deal with myself before I deal with him, right? And
Right.
in those
Right.
moments of pausing and going to God and asking Him about that, He will definitely let you know, no, it's not Him, it's you.
Right. That's right. That's what you have to do.
Yes, 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 yes. So that
Yes.
was so good. And so you've explained to us a lot of the ways that you show up as a kingdom wife mom boss. And I think the most important part of being a wife mom boss is kingdom, because you'll hear a lot of people say that they're wife mom bosses. But to me, the kingdom aspect of it makes it a little bit more. I, I don't necessarily want to say heavier, but sometimes heavier, but
Yeah.
also lighter, because
Yeah.
heavier, you got to fight your flesh every single day. You
Yes.
got to fight your flesh every single day. You have to go to God and you have to ask God, how do you show up for this particular situation? What do you say in this particular situation? You can't just fly off of your flesh. So it makes it
Right.
heavier in that way because you're fighting your flesh. Lighter because you know that God has your marriage in his hands and that he is protecting it and that he is guiding the situation. And
Yes.
you guys recently had to make another pivot. Y'all moved back in town from moving out of town.
Yes.
And I imagine that that was probably incredibly stressful. And you guys were able to get your church back up and going. You guys had a lot going on. And so I know that the things that you've experienced in your marriage, the things that you had to grow through, helped you to I guess, kind of move through the situation a little bit easier. So, what are some key things that you can share with other Kingdom Wife Mom bosses that you've learned throughout the years that has helped you to be better equipped for any upcoming situations that you may be dealing with?
Oh, well, being stripped, really. I mean,
Ooh, that was deep.
yeah, you know, my husband had a very good job, and he lost his job. Of course, about the paper mill, they shut down. So we made a decision to move to Jacksonville, and because we were hoping that he would get back with the company there because they were giving everybody the option to, move if they wanted to. But when we got to Jacksonville, we started, noticing that this is not where God wanted us to be. And he stripped us. I mean, pretty much lost everything as far as like we sold everything that we had when we were living here in Panama City. And then when we got to Jacksonville, the jobs were not lining up. My husband was going from one job to another job to another job, and that's never happened in all the years we've been married. My husband only has worked pretty much one job since we've been married because he started working at the paper mill like months after we got married. So that's where he has been all of our marriage. So, when we were there, we were like, well, God, what's going on? And another apostle had called me and said she was in prayer, and she said the Lord had told her that we were supposed to come back to Panama City. So I felt it, my husband felt it in our spirit, but we were still trying to say, well, no, we're gonna stay, here for a little while. And but when she called and she told us that, we realized we needed to come back. So we did not really plan to come back. We just kind of like packed up and came back. And so currently we are staying with my mother and we're, saving to get us a home. So that's another thing, that, we just been stripped of everything. Because I was telling my mother, I said, I just feel like we've just been taken. Everything was taken. And but through it all, I'm watching God just move on our behalf. And the Lord is letting my husband and I know that we're not alone. He's with us. We're not by ourselves. Because I kind of felt, that way, and I never got mad at my husband or anything like that about the financial situation. And because I know he moved here, he got on with a job, I got a job, and we're not bringing in the money that we were bringing. But God is still like, God is just so amazing. And I want women to understand this, that, you know, you can go through a season with your spouse that maybe they got it good now. But the Bible tells us, I'm not gonna say the Bible tells us, but I can say the Bible tells us, when you marry somebody, you're marrying them out of love and out of covenant. And a lot of people marry for different reasons. Some people marry for looks, some people marry for financial, stability. But you got to look at it. What if that spouse loses their job? What if something happens to them and they might not look the same? They might put on some weight. So we have to understand that when it says for better or for worse, I believe God allowed me and my husband to go through the for worse for us to see, you know, do we really love each other? Do we really have each other's back? And even through illnesses that we've been diagnosed with, my husband and I understand that we really do love each other, like to death do us part. Because a lot of women would have been angry with their spouse because that's not my husband's fault they closed up.
Right.
So over the past years, I've learned what real love is.
Mm.
Because you say for better or for worse. And my husband have experienced them both.
Wow.
So I just believe that, to be able to, even with our businesses, my husband sold everything. He sold all of his equipment because he had his small business as well. But guess what? He's getting it back because he just bought him a truck. He just got him a little used little truck that he can do and a little trailer. So God is slowly putting us back in place. But I know that the Lord had to strip us to see, not only will our marriage still hold up, but will we still worship him?
Mm.
Because the Lord comes first in all things, in your marriage, in your life. And so, I think that's what he had us to walk through. And yet what we were stripped from, we still walk in the ministry and we give God glory. And what's so ironic is when we came back to Panama City, before we left, we had a pretty good sized ministry, but then it got, dwindled down because of the storm. But after the storm, then we moved to Jacksonville. So we came back and we're starting over again. And I can tell you that our whole perspective is different. It's not like it was before we left. And I think that's why the God had us to go, because it was some things that he wanted to do through both of us, and so it's a beautiful thing because, a lot of people will look at us like, you 50-year-olds, you staying with your mom, but God is restoring. And he wanted us to walk through this so that So we'll know. So he's showing us where our heart is, because God already knows where your heart is.
Amen.
But he's showing us that this is who you are. And so as we have developed that relationship, um, it's a beautiful thing. And I'm learning more and more to be more appreciative for my husband. And I want to say this too. Even now, I would say to my mom, if I have a bad day at work, what I love about my husband is, and he taught me this because I've been previously married before and I didn't have that in my previous marriage. But my husband always would ask when he calls me, he'll say, "How was your day at work?" And I will say, how my day was, whether it was good or bad. And then I would ask him, "Well, how was your day?" And he'd tell me. And after we vetted about that, then we would go into whatever it was. And I appreciate him for that. And if I say I had a bad day, "Oh, well, it was stressful," he'll say, "Is there anything you need me to do? Do I need to go get some food? Do I need to go do this?" Even when we're still in Jacksonville, my husband doesn't cook much, but he would start the dinner, and he'll say, "Well, do you want me to start it or do you want me to pull something out?" And it's just the little things like that that
Mm-hmm.
makes you appreciative in
Mm-hmm.
your marriage. And I told him the other day, we were sitting out, went out to eat, and I told him, I said, "I just want to tell you thank you. I really appreciate what you do." I said, when I was tired or you just have everything set in place. And I thank you for that because it's needed. And so, and then and when I wasn't working, I did the same thing for my husband. He had a meal every day, pretty much when he came home. When you work, it's a little bit different.
Well, girl, I don't know because God is
You
like,
gotta
no,
have to
go in
be a
there and cook.
plan.
He be like, go up in there and cook. But I got 4 kids. And he's like, no, we're not spending the money today. Go up in there and cook. Be like, God, I'm tired.
Well,
Oh, goodness.
and I kind of understand because it's just me and my husband. We don't have any
Mm-hmm.
children at home, but when we have children at home, you probably can't afford to go out and eat all the time. But I'm learning more and more to meal plan, and
Yeah.
that's my next goal anyway, is to start doing meal planning because I've done it before.
I was going to say, get back on meal planning because I remember you were really good at planning meals, especially when you guys were on
Yes,
doing a little better healthier eating.
yes,
You were doing
and that's why I'm going back to meal
it.
planning because I was eating healthy back then, but I kind of got away from that.
It's
But I'm
easy to
gonna go. I'm
do.
going back. I'm going back to and yes,
Yeah.
and to eat healthy. The biggest thing with eating healthy is meal planning.
Yeah. All right. I don't want to get away from what you said because you said something I had to clutch my pearls. You said he wanted to see if we would still worship him. Do you know that touched me because listen, and you said he stripped you. And
Yes,
so in the moments where he stripped you, it's just learning to really trust God.
right.
Learning to really trust God. And the song popped in my head when you were talking about you and your husband and your rough days. The song Sunny Days.
Yes.
Everybody loves him.
Yep.
I
New edition.
That's what came in my head because people cannot take rainy days. And even though that was when it came in my head, it was talking about you and your marriage. But now I'm thinking like it's also about you and God because it's so easy to love and trust God when everything is perfect in your life. But when
Very
God
good.
starts stripping things away, because He's saying, "Hey, I need you to get on another level. I need you to come on another plane, and this is a distraction. I got to get it away from you."
Right.
Will you still trust God? Will you still
Yes.
worship God in those moments? And if I can be entirely honest, some of the things that maybe I've experienced in my marriage, maybe for a couple of days, I was like, God, I don't know how to pray. I don't
Right.
know what to say. I don't know what to do. I still trust you. I still love you. I still worship you. But isn't it so good that scripture tells us that Holy Spirit goes before us and intercedes just from our moanings and our groanings, he knows what we need. And he goes before us and he intercedes. But when you said will we still worship him? If you are a kingdom wife, mom, boss, and you're experiencing hardship in your marriage, I did a prayer last week, and the topic of the prayer was worship wins war. When you
Wow.
have spiritual warfare, when you have mental warfare, and the enemy is coming at you, take the opportunity to worship God. It don't matter what's going on around you or anything looks like
That's
around
right.
you. Worship wins the war.
Yeah.
And loving what is like having real love, God will teach you how to have real love. I love that you guys went through many things.
Yeah.
And through those many things, you had to learn how to still trust God. You had to learn how to still worship God. You had to
Yeah.
learn to not let the things that you see before you really affect what it is that is going on in your life right now. And
Yes.
I love that. Like I absolutely love that testimony. That was a beautiful, beautiful testimony with so many nuggets. I hope somebody got something out of that. But I have to ask you this question.
Yes, ma'am.
Who is some of the most influential women in your life that you think have helped you become a better wife?
Um, well, um, I will say Joyce Myers. Um,
Oh, her testimony is so powerful,
yeah,
isn't it?
I've
When
listened to
she
her for
talks about
years.
her, yeah, when she talks about her husband not being saved and how he talks about her when she went to church and she
Yes.
stayed faith.
Yes. And the husband that her husband, as we know, Joyce was married before, and she was molested by her dad and all that.
Mhm.
And when she married her husband that she's married to now, she would talk about how they would, she would just go off and he would be so calm, and she would always give nuggets about, marriage and what she went through and how God dealt with her. So I want to say that she definitely influenced me because in my earlier years, I would go and listen to Joyce, and listen to the things she would talk about, and how her husband was. Because, like she said, Dave was always a calm, cool, collective type of guy. And Dave kind of reminds me of Tommy because that's how Tommy is. Tommy is like a quiet, calm, cool. You know, I do want to share this one thing. I'm the type of person, if things don't work out, I just freak out, I get upset, especially if electronics are not working, like if my computer's not working or my phone is not working or something is not working. So one particular day, I was trying to do something on my phone and it wasn't working, and I was getting frustrated. So my husband said, "What's wrong with you? You're looking crazy." I said, "I'm trying to get this to work on my phone." So I kept trying, and I started crying, and he just started laughing. I will never forget that. He just looked at me and busted out laughing like this lady is crazy. And at the time, I didn't think it was funny. But I said,
No.
"What are you laughing at?" He said, so you crying over that?" And of course, at that moment, I want to just, you know, but I didn't say anything. I just kind of like put the phone down and walked out, you know. But it was funny the next day when I was going to work, I just chuckled and laughed. So I think my husband trying to bring me back to reality. Like it ain't that bad. It's not that bad. So so yeah, I mean, I'm sitting there like crying, like, I can't get this to work. And he just starts laughing, you know, and that's he, he's done that a couple other times with me. But you know, and that kind of reminded me of Joyce because Joyce Myers was sharing a testimony one time about how she was getting frustrated with her husband about certain things and how she wanted it in the house and everything. And she just kind of like freaked out, and her husband just kind of smiled at her and walked off, you know.
I
So
think men are so cool, calm, and collective, and us women be like on 10, like
dramatic.
we think it is like an
Yeah.
emergency, and they just be looking at us like, "Girl, what's wrong with you?"
Okay. It's not that bad.
It's
Exactly.
not.
But yeah, I had to share that, because I remember I was just so upset and I was just crying and he was just looking at me and he just started laughing.
Oh
And
my God. That's so funny. When I first started working my job, I came home every day. I was upset. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the atmosphere that I'm working in, and this is what we're dealing with." And my husband looked at me. He said, "Girl," he said, "Go to work and do your job and come home. Like, leave your work at work.
Uh-huh.
Stress that. Don't bring that stress home with you." And he wasn't saying it like as far as the house, but he saw that I was stressed out and he didn't like me being stressed out about the situation. He
Right.
was like, "These ain't your best friends. You ain't gotta hang out with
Yes.
them all the time." He was like, "Go to work and do your job and come home." And that's what it made me think of. Like, men are so common
Uh-huh.
collective and wisdom has so much wisdom in those situations where we're just like or
Yes.
frustrated about a situation. And that but thinking about that, how they're so cool, calm, and collective. How does the atmosphere that you guys set in the I want to say the flow that you guys have together, how does that transfer over to help you guys in ministry? Vice
Basically the
versa.
same. We flow, we're comical now. We're
Oh,
comical. Sometimes because like when I minister, he's praying for me and things. And when he's ministering, I'm doing the same thing for him. We worship together, we pray together, and the atmosphere just kind of flows. But sometimes, like yesterday when I was preaching, my husband was putting on some music. I didn't like it. I said, "That's funeral music. Don't play that. Don't play that." And everybody in the ministry church started laughing. So we just basically what flows out of our marriage flows in our ministry. And that's really important because your ministry is going to flow a lot better if your marriage flows better. Um, don't say I'm not saying you don't have disagreements. There's times we have, but majority of the time, if you flow together in your marriage, it's gonna fall right into your ministry. Because it's like the way you live at home is what's going to consist in your ministry. So basically, that's what we do. We're able to flow together like that.
mm-hmm.
My husband knows my shortcomings. He knows my strong points and my weak points. As vice versa, I know his strong points and his weak points, and so we just kind of flow together in ministry. Even when we get ready to minister, my husband never asks me what I'm going to preach about, and occasionally we'll ask each other if I'm going to put it onto social media. I might say, "Well, what's the title of your message?" And he might ask me the same. But other than that, even when we're preparing to minister, I don't ask him, "Well, what are you going to minister on? What this?" He doesn't ask me. We just wait until that moment in time when we're getting up to minister, and usually it always seems to be on point.
I feel
You
like
know what
we
I'm
can talk
saying?
about that because you got like that to me. That is so key to just understand that although you guys are married, he has his relationship with God and you have your relationship with God, and Holy Spirit is going to speak to you about what you need to do in that moment, and Holy
Right.
Spirit is going to speak to him. And we don't have to take it, we don't have to be offensive about it or feel like I want to know everything that God said to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
That is
Right.
so good what you just said for marriages, especially those marriages that are in ministry. That's really good.
Yes, yes. Because if you don't, we've learned, and we've seen in the past other couples who were in competition. Don't want to be in competition with your own spouse. That's your
Right.
spouse. Um, and we don't let people even divide that. I remember when we first started in ministry, we weren't pastoring then, or we didn't have our own ministry. We were, associate ministers, and people would walk up and try to do comparison. And we would immediately tell them there's no comparison in our ministry, no comparison. I'm not better than him. He's not better than me. And that definitely helps because we've seen a lot of people that's in ministry get divorces. And I think a lot of it is because of uh is maybe their marriage wasn't unified. And then ministry can sometimes cause division
Mm-hmm.
because of the people, you know. It's no different than Saul and David when the women were singing a song, and they were talking about how Saul killed 10,000s and David killed.
Yes.
In every marriage, as far as ministry flowing, one might be stronger than the other in certain areas. And my husband and I are okay with that. And
That's
that's what I think has helped us.
yeah, that's really good. So listen, you have you want to talk to us about anything that you have coming up in 2025 that you want to share or get out? Any programs,
Yeah.
any specials?
I do have a devotional book. Lord help me and forgive
Oh
me.
yay.
I actually was supposed to launch that book this year, but with so much going on, and we just had so many obstacles when we were in Jacksonville, and we were, just battling there. Then we had to move back. We had to get back on our feet. Just all of that. Um, I made it. I told the Lord, I said, "Okay, Lord, I'm going to focus on getting this." So my devotional will be about making me better and not bitter. And it's basically a devotional to help people overcome being bitter, because so many people,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, I love the Lord and, and Jesus and me and God." But inside, that ain't what's going on.
And it comes
No,
out and people can see it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's not, that's not really what's going on, because I dealt with that for several years. I was bitter in a lot of things. And so I would just sit down and write things down when I would do my devotional time with God. And then that's when he kind of birthed me to write that devotion. So it's a 30-day devotional that I will be launching on next year.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be working on building up my prophetic mentorship, because I think prophetic mentorship is very important. I did launch that in the around the early part of fall, and it's going pretty good.
Okay.
And I think it's needed, because the Lord has really taught me and trained me how to walk as an authentic prophet.
I'm gonna
Um,
interject right here and just tell y'all, sis got an eye. Do y'all hear me? She can see spiritually, and she is God uses her mightily in the area of prophecy. If you are looking for a prophetic mentorship and God is telling you to connect, I concur.
thank you. Um, but because the Lord had, he told me he wanted me to help purify the prophetic, because the one thing about the prophecy, it attracts, because people are attracted, especially when you can see. And
Mhm.
then people who can see themselves, that might be new, they need somebody that's going to like mentor them and show them, look, you got to make sure you guard your heart. You got to make sure you're walking with God, because you can end up going the other direction. And so that's what I'm working toward building up. Of course, I have a podcast too, and
Around prophetic, right?
we're all prophetic.
Around prophetic.
Um, and so I'm working on. Um, my husband and I really want to do more of a studio. Um, and so that's what we're working towards once we get our home and all of that. So for 2025, I'm just looking for the Lord to just open up doors. I just see spiritual doors that's going to open, but we still need to stand guard, because we know that the adversary will try to come and discourage us. So we have to stand strong and just believe and trust the Lord. And so, and after I get launched that devotional, I'm going to work on another devotional, because I really feel like the Lord is calling me. I know I'm called to podcasting. I know that. And I'm also called to writing and journaling. So I'll be launching some new journals as well. And I'm working also toward a family recipe book, but I'm really making that book for my family, but I will offer it to the public as well.
Nice. Got a lot going on. So let's try to get in contact with you.
So if people want to get in contact with me, they can go to my website, rawandprophetic.com. I'm on TikTok under Catrina Garrett, and you can go to my Instagram, Catrina Garrett, and it's Facebook, Catrina Garrett.
Okay.
And so if they want to contact me, they can contact me through there, or they could go to my website to rawprophetic.com, and there's a place where they can send an email. If they want to reach out to me, they can, submit a request. And basically that's it. I mean, that's how they can contact me if they need to. And
That's really good. Okay. So we know that we'll be able to go to your website and find what we need. We can go to you have a Raw Prophetic Facebook page too, correct?
yes, well, actually, if you go to my Facebook page, I do have a link. So my link
Okay.
has everything on there.
Okay. Okay.
I have a link with link trees. So
Link
you can
tree.
just go
Okay.
to my Facebook page or Instagram or TikTok.
Like I
All
said,
of them
you
have
are
my
a
link.
woman with many gifts, many talents, many hats. So I just wanted to make sure that we cover every way that we're going to be able to have another Kingdom Wife Mom Boss contact you if she feels like God is leading her to come to you for mentorship or products, even whatever it is. You have the equipping of what it is that lady needs, and we know that if God is going to be connecting y'all, it's going to be a divine connection. And so we appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing with us. I want to just recap really quickly. You talked to us about being a helpmate. You talked to us about seeking God for how to operate as a wife so that you are putting your best foot forward as a wife. You talked to us about making sure that you take a breath before you respond. You talked to us about trusting God no matter what it looks like. You talked to us about marriage not just being sunny every single day, but sometimes you're going to have some rainy days. You're going to go through ups and downs. You're going to have opposition, but God strengthens you and he directs you and he has you in your hands. And my favorite part I think I'm going to take away from this podcast is you said God wanted to know, will you still worship him? And so for the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss that might be having some ups and downs or some difficulties, worship God. Don't stop worshiping God because he still has your marriage in his hands and he is still the one that is going to see you through to promise and to victory in your kingdom marriage. And so Apostle Catrina Garrett, you have come on and you have given us a lot of nuggets, a lot of tools, and we greatly appreciate you. Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
No, just like, just keep loving the Lord and walking with him, and
Yes.
he will lead and guide you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thank you
Okay.
for having me.
Yes. Give me 1 second. Let me